Plains Cree, to you, my Dakota and Nakota relatives, as well as to you, with my relatives, the Woodland Cree in-laws and friends, the Swampy Cree, as well as the Soda, Knockaway people. I ask for you too, in the far north of the United Nations. I ask totally for all your support. Let's make this a reality to continue to force the federal and provincial governments to the court so that we can continue to work on our treaty inherent rights. It is our right. It is our time. Our old people from the past, our leaders, this is Mr. Wass's, Atakakup, as well as Sweetgrass, and including Piepot, as well as Pasqua. There's something out there. As well as Pasqua, as well as Cody, and as well as White Bear. Let that not be stopped. I don't like what's going on right now, but think about it. It's your choice to decide who you are, and I know we're going to win. And I humbly ask for your support at this time. I humbly ask for your support. Let's get her done, my relatives. The Dene Nations, the Woodland Cree, Swampy Cree, Plains Cree, Soto, as well as our Dakota and Lakota relatives. I humbly ask for your support. I ask for your vote tomorrow. Let's make those organizations proud and strong one more time, nation to nation. Out.
Thank you. I will now call upon Bobby Cameron and his nominator to come and address the Assembly. Bobby Cameron and nominator, please.
First of all, I want to acknowledge our elders, our veterans, our Senate, the FSIN Executive Vice Chief Bear, the Women's Commission, the youth, and all the delegates, and the chiefs and councilors, and all the participants that are participating, the candidates in the election process. I'm very honored to nominate Bobby. And it's been 4 years since I last nominated Bobby to become the vice chief. And as life moves forward, so does experience, knowledge, respect, building the foundation. And certainly I've witnessed that Bobby is the role model, is the expert on what our forefathers talked about when signing the treaty. Bobby and all of us and you are those children that they talked about. Not to forget about those children unborn. We are the unborn, and we are still here. Bobby has traveled this province, 74 First Nations in the last year, to witness and to observe and to meet with you, to discuss with you, to admire with you the things that you do in your community. There are many positive things going on in each of our communities. But sometimes the negative overtakes the positive. We are strong people, and Bobby is a strong person. How many times has he got into a car accident? How many times has he gone through bad times, and he's still walking, and he's still standing? Nobody can break him down. So I encourage all of you to give Bobby that opportunity to speak for us. I talked to Bobby. I said, we need a plan. FSIN needs a plan. I've traveled to Ottawa many times, going to meetings, and we have no plan. In order to promote and fight for the rights that we talk about, we need to have a plan. And Bobby has agreed that he and the executive to work together in unity, to build a teamwork, to create avenues for all of us to agree to. We need those plans in order to succeed. So tomorrow I ask you to endorse Bobby Cameron as our chief of the FSIN. I also ask on behalf of Okanese First Nation people that you help us to vote Bobby as our FSIN chief. And I present to you Bobby Cameron.
Nigan mantu kanaskaman tagagisa gaume gwats. Tansen wagumantik idlanate salutina anin sigwa netoda magan haukona kola kota matakiape. Hi to all my friends and relatives here today. It's been an incredible journey the last 4 years serving as the vice chief with the FSIN. I just want to make a quick note before I get into it on what the FSIN brings. You look at the room full of people. We were at an assembly in May, and I was sitting with some of our grassroots people, some of our counselors, visiting and talking about different issues from the north to the south. And it just suddenly dawned on me that I was sitting with a counselor from Fond du Lac named Georgie McDonald, and some counselors from Wood Mountain, Lakota Territory. Names are Stan Lethbridge and Loretta Lethbridge. And I said, I gotta do this. I gotta get a picture of these folks. The furthest reserve north and the furthest reserve south in the same room. That's what the FSIN brings. It brings all of our Nehiyawak people together in one room to discuss our inherent and treaty rights and what it is important, what it is that we want to do as Indian people. To all the people here today, we have to say that we at the FSIN are all about inherent and treaty rights. Most importantly, we were on a 3-year journey on how to combat, how to protect our treaty right to education at the First Nation level. I had the honor and privilege of having the education portfolio here the last 3 years. A former teacher at the band level for many years. We tried to advocate and negotiate and get the federal government, the former federal government, to get them to commit to our Indian people of Saskatchewan that control and jurisdiction should continue to remain within each chief and council and their membership. But it was falling on deaf ears. Then we went to the province to get them to commit in writing. But before we did that, a lot of negotiating, a lot of bargaining, a lot of meetings had transpired during the three years. A lot of word changes. When all was said and done, when we got the blessing from the chiefs in assembly, the blessing from our Kiteyak to sign this agreement, because we never do anything on our own here at the FSIN. We get the approval, we get the direction, we get the advice from chiefs and councils, from grassroots people, before we move anything on types of agreements. This legally binding contract says and states, and this is what FSIN is fully intended for, the 10 principles of treaties. The treaty right to education was my portfolio. And it says this, that each chief and council will control and exercise jurisdiction over their schools on our treaty territories. That each chief and council will continue to advocate that treaty right. The treaty right to education is a federal crown responsibility, and that's the way it will remain. This is going to protect our treaty education. You hear the term for so many years, Indian control of treaty education. Well, we got that, we've provided results, and we are so happy as an executive that we provided that to all 74 bands. This is what you want your executive to do, to provide results. You want them to show the 74 communities of Saskatchewan that we are doing something. We're certainly doing our best, and we got to be that treaty voice and to protect our treaty interests. At the last May Assembly in May of 2015 here, we also got the full support from the chiefs in Assembly to finalize the same type of agreement, the same concepts, the same principles on this treaty right to hunt, fish, trap, and gather. And it's the same ideas, the same concept as this treaty education agreement that we just finalized. We cannot forget where every one of us in this room had come from, where every one of us had started, all our ancestors, all the trials and tribulations that they have endured in the 1800s. And the main reason, the sole reason why our inherent treaty rights were negotiated and signed, the government of the day in the 1800s saw, realized, and witnessed that the Indian people of this land had a way of life, survival off this land by way of hunt, fish, trap, and gather. We cannot forget those ways. So very important, those treaty principles, and we continue to do that. What I'm saying is here, if elected, the continuity, chief and councils, every one of you know in here, you got to have continuity to get business done. You got to have continuity to finalize those agreements. We in Indian country have so many items to work for. You heard all the candidates, and acknowledge the candidates, Helen, Lee O'Mani, Rod Atchinham, Guy Lonechild, Bob Morasti, for putting their names forward. The advantage I have here and now is I've been here for 4 years as your executive member. 4 years establishing relationships, partnerships, networks, and connections with federal and politicians to guarantee that we always have that treaty protection and treaty voice and treaty advocacy at the FSIN. That's what I bring to the table. That's what I commit to each and every one of you sitting here today. To all of our people that are listening online. Helen Ben said it perfectly. John B. Tatusis traveled to all 74 bands. I have done that. We have done that. Personally, I've traveled to all 74 communities probably half a dozen times. And it's a lot of miles, but you know what? It's an awesome feeling, and it's a great feeling and a rewarding feeling because I made so many good friends, so many good connections, and so many Kiteyak who have always lent me a willing hand, who have always given me great advice. Mel Joseph, we were at an AFN gathering. This one sticks so clear in my mind. And it was an AFN, and it said National Treaty Forum. A room full of prestige leaders and highly educated people. And he got up to the podium. Mel Joseph, if you're in the room, please stand up. He got up to the podium and he said, our treaties are not national. Our treaties are of international value. And it took one of our esteemed elders to say that and school everybody in the room. So I want to acknowledge you, Mel, because those are treaty principles. We all know our treaty rights are international. We will continue to be that voice. We will continue to advocate for all of our inherent treaty rights, from education to housing to justice to economic development to the non-insured health benefits to our treaty right to medicine chest clause. This is what we commit to do. This position, to each and every one of us, it brings us accessibility. Chief Todd Pegan, you said it right when Chief Perry Bellegarde got elected. It's about accessibility. This position will give me that accessibility to high-level federal and provincial politicians on a consistent basis. What I'm saying, Nuagomantik, you want to put your best treaty voice forward, your best treaty warrior forward, your best treaty advocate forward. Bobby Cameron is that man. I live treaty, I breathe treaty, I die treaty. On another note, Chief Marianne Daywalker really made me earn her nomination. Holy man. It was not easy. Even though she nominated me in 2011, my goodness, it took a lot of work to get her trust, respect, and confidence. 35 plus years as a chief and the chair of the Women's Commission. I say Kanaskaman, thank you very much, Chief Marianne. Chief Peter Beattie, my seconder, thank you so much for having the confidence, the respect, the friendship in me as a man, as a common man, to be that treaty voice. Tomorrow morning, Nuagomantik, I ask for each and every one of you to put the best treaty voice forward. That's Bobby Cameron. Exit Nuagomantik, Sami Patskawapam Tinawao. Hi, hi.
Thank you. Thank you, delegates, for your comments. Just want to remind everyone, tomorrow morning the polls will open up at 9 a.m. and they will close at 11 a.m. And I just want to reference one more piece of the Act to you. Pay attention to Section 9, page 21, Clause 124. 3 or less candidates. In this situation, for all positions, we have at least 3 or less candidates. That means the candidate with the highest number of votes shall be declared elected to the position. I wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good night.